Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
This is the Chad Benson Show. My name is Craig Collins, filling in. Thrilled to be with you. I guess not thrilled about the Good Friday. Well, I'm happy about the weekend. Here's what I'm trying to say. Happy about Easter. I'm a Catholic. Good Friday's a weird day in the world of my faith, though, because, of course, we're coming up on a very fun Easter weekend, and yet today is a memory of not a fun thing. Anyway, I'm going to move on from that. Elon Musk wants to buy Twitter. That's all we've been talking about for the last couple days. It's amazing. This guy, I feel like over the last couple weeks, we've had moment after moment that has been so brilliantly capable of demonstrating the problem that exists currently in our society. Things like the Hunter Biden laptop story and how it's hidden from a lot of mainstream media and now finally admitted to be real. And now this, Elon Musk wants to buy Twitter so he can make it a free speech platform. He doesn't want to turn it into something horrible and terrible. He doesn't want to take all your ideas and force you to not have them anymore. He just wants to allow for a fair platform where we get the same right that is so tremendously important in our society and in our country, the freedom of speech. And people on the left cannot handle this. They can't take it. I believe him. I believe his authentic desire to, one, kind of kibosh any real financial value the company may have by getting rid of things like ads. That's something he wants to do, but also providing a platform for people to say things they think, no matter what those things are. Here he is talking about it, how it's not about money. It's not a money grab. He's not really using the world's richest person, his vast fortune, to make more money. He's doing it to try to better our society.
This is not a way to sort of make money. My strong intuitive sense is that having a public platform that is maximally trusted and broadly inclusive is extremely important to the future of civilization. So I don't care about the economics at all.
It's the importance to our civilization. And I have to be honest, I think that in today's world, and I do think this is more likely to be a problem for younger people. I'm a millennial, so this is somewhat self-hate. I just want to put that out there. But I think that we now walk around expecting life to be a social media page that we just kind of live out in real time. And we expect everyone to click like on all of our stuff. And if somebody says something that someone doesn't like, we all have to collectively dislike it. We essentially cannot handle any kind of counter argument to anything. Because, I mean, honestly, the Twitter conversation isn't even about what would be said. We're not having a conversation. By the way, the former president, Donald Trump, who people, at least some people, really, really hate and don't want to see back on Twitter, has claimed he has no interest in being back on. I don't know that that's true, but he's claimed that even if Elon takes control of the company and offers him his platform back, he says, nah, I don't want that. I got my own thing going. So that's a part of this conversation for now. But truthfully, as I said, it's not like there's any one ideology or thought specifically that people can point to and say, that's too dangerous. That opinion can't exist here. Instead, it's the totality of people who think things that are not aligned with current Twitter mob thoughts. Anti-woke things, I imagine. Things that are conservative in nature, things that get people banned from social media often, are the kind of thing that we right now, for whatever reason, just can't seem to get our place to. All right, it'd be fine to have these things. So I really do think, and I really do strongly believe, that until we get to that place where we can handle any kind of argument that anyone would make in front of us, or even just on digital media, and walk away being like, okay, that's fine. They don't think what I think. We will have to have people like Elon Musk go out there and take over giantly successful platforms. And I know Twitter's not going to take it. I know they were trading down in all the different numbers over the last couple of days, which means investors are not actually expecting Twitter to say yes. There's even this conversation now about a poison pill approach that Twitter will take to dilute the value of Elon Musk's shares while selling at an insane discount to anyone else that wants to buy them. So they're going to they're going to crash their company's value to prevent Elon Musk from trying to have free speech be an important part of their platform. It's amazing. It's an amazing stance to be a public position that a company is taking. In other news, our to have seen this. It went viral that the president of the United States tried to shake the hand of no one. I guess he has a friend who's a ghost or something. I'm not really sure. But he tried to shake the hand of literally no people at the end of his speech yesterday. He also yet again claimed that inflation is up mostly or almost entirely. I think he said 70%. And I know I have the audio here to play in a second because of Vladimir Putin, even though inflation was at 7.5% in January of this year.
Yeah. Putin's invasion of Ukraine has driven up gas prices and food prices all over the world. Ukraine and Russia are the 1 and 2 largest wheat producers in the world. We're number 3. They're shut down. We saw that in yesterday's inflation data. What people don't know is that 70% of the increase in inflation was the consequence of Putin's price hike because of the impact on oil prices.
You know what I like about this? And I want to laugh real hard, but I'm going to try to make the comment first, and then I will probably enjoy that. I now want to do this in my own life. I now want to say the sentence, what people don't know, and then just make up stuff that isn't true and pretend that people don't know it. But that's what he said. He goes, people don't know this thing that's not factual at all.
70%. We need to address these high prices, and urgently.
That's what we need to do. We need to address the high prices urgently that we've had all year so far to address. And last year, as inflation was getting worse and worse, and as oil and gas prices were rising because of the decisions he made, all of those things are things we could have addressed sooner, but we need to do it now. And this is the first time we should think about this, and it's all Putin's fault. That's something people don't know, mostly because in no way, shape, or form is it real, much like the friend he tried to shake a hand of after the speech. He also said we cut down all the forests, which feels odd because I feel like there are forests here, but he said they're all gone. We cut them all down. And I do love this audio because it seems like he's in a fight with his own brain as to whether or not, which he's probably in often, by the way, as to whether or not this is a negative or a positive point he's trying to make. I feel like he goes both ways.
We cut down all our forests. We're doing fine. Guess what? We're part of the reason for the global warming.
I love that so much. The guess what moment, too, is like that guy who showed up to school 20 years ago to try to tell you the scared to do better guy. The guy who's like, guess what? One day, all of a sudden, you're in jail and everything's terrible. That's his point, kind of. But as I said, I feel like he's battling if that's where he wants to go in his own mind.
We cut down all our forests. We're doing fine. Guess what? We're part of the reason for the global warming.
You need to do the punch action. Guess what? No, we're not doing fine. Global warming. We're screwed now. I don't understand any of that. The forests are not all cut down. We are doing fine. And I'm not even denying global warming exists. I do think that's a conversation we need to have down the road when we don't have a war going on that could represent a World War III, all because of energy weakness in our country. We need to ramp up production to prevent Russia from ending the world now. We can talk about that other stuff down the road. One other thing that I think is valuable, at least to play quickly here, Dr. Anthony Fauci is out there oddly still being kind to China. This is something he's been doing a lot over the last week or so. And I'll get to it later on in the show, probably after this first break. Our former president, Donald Trump, is being accused of being too kind to Vladimir Putin. I think I can prove that that's definitely not as true as some sources are saying it is. But this is a version of that same thing. This is Fauci praising communist China and what was likely the laboratory origin, at least in my opinion. I know we can't prove any of that. The laboratory origin of COVID-19, all of these things, and Fauci is still like, yeah, they did a great job forcing vaccines on people sometimes, at least if you believe some of what's out there, by going door to door.
How concerning is the outbreak in China? We see the lockdown in Shanghai, and the State Department now ordering families out, all non-essential workers out of Shanghai.
Well, China has a number of problems, two of which are that their complete lockdown, which was their approach, a strictest lockdown that you'd never be able to implement in the United States, although that prevents the spread of infection. And remember, early on, they were saying, and I think accurately, that they were doing better than almost anybody else.
That's all praise for China. They're like, they locked down harder than the rest of us. None of us could have ever done that, and I really wish that I was in China right now.
But lockdown has its consequences. You use lockdowns to get people vaccinated so that when you open up.
Okay, that makes no sense, by the way, because we locked down before we had a vaccine. When all of the lockdowns were happening, there was no vaccine available. So saying that right now, that scientist, that person who gets challenged all the time, and half the time when I hear him speak, I think, all right, he's just like any other doctor out there in the world. He's advising us on things to do that are not possible. They're not practical, but I guess according to science, they might be the most accurate. And then at other times, he's just blatantly lying in odd ways for someone that claims to be the embodiment of medicine and science. Saying that you lock down to get people vaccinated is utterly illogical when we locked down when we had no vaccine. A quick break, a lot more. The Chad Benson Show, Craig Collins filling in.
Set Chad straight. Text the show 323-538-2423. That's 323-538-CHAD. Someone has to do it. Might as well be you. The Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. My name is Craig Collins filling in. Thrilled to have you. Lots of things to talk about. Tucker Carlson interviewed the founder or the creator, I don't know what the right word should be, of Libs of TikTok. If you don't know what this is, it was a TikTok page, and then they banned her. Then it was a few different other things, including, of course, a Twitter page. And all it does, this is the premise of this page, is use the things that liberals are saying and puts sort of a bigger spotlight on them to show how crazy or ridiculous they are. It has been deemed to be hate, according to Twitter, and the account got suspended. But again, there's no addition of other thoughts or beliefs or things. It's just replaying, as Tucker Carlson will say in this interview I'm about to play, in the words of the people that we're questioning the sanity of, we're questioning the accuracy of the things they believe and think. It's just them saying it. It's simply sharing something that's already been put out there by the individual, whoever they are, that has whatever account they have. It's insane that this is considered hate. But let's let Tucker Carlson do an interview with the anonymous creator of this. Because even though we can hear her voice, she's never given her name in the world because she's afraid someone will try to kill her again for just highlighting the things people are willingly saying on their own platforms.
But we are happy to talk to that person over the phone, which we are doing now. The creator of Libs of TikTok joins us on the line. Don't know your name. Glad you're on. So you were pulled off Twitter after you were attacked by Media Matters for disseminating hate. Were you surprised by this?
Exactly. No, I was not surprised at all. It definitely felt like a very organized attack by the left to get me suspended.
I just want to reiterate what she said there first. She believes that it was an attack by politicians in the left to pull her account off of Twitter that simply redoes or replays things. Like, we can't get here. This is why Elon Musk, and I know we're already here, but we can't be here. It's why Elon Musk wants to buy Twitter, is stuff like this, that apparently it is hateful to replay the things you're already saying and to give them that added level of when we're playing them again for maybe a different audience, to send your message to a wider section of people and not just the social media followers you have, whatever the account may be, apparently is hate. It makes no sense to me.
So how big, and this is not the first platform from which you've been suspended for holding up liberals in their own voice to the rest of the country. Where else have you been kicked off?
I have been kicked off of TikTok, and I've gotten multiple violations on Instagram.
And what's really uniquely interesting about all that, too, is the idea that not only is she getting kicked off, but she's getting death threats. She was about to say this, too. She's getting hate, and the people who are hating her, the people who are threatening her, are still on those platforms.
It's just remarkable to me in a country like ours that you feel the need to remain anonymous. Tell us why you're not giving us your name tonight.
Well, I've gotten a few death threats. I get a ton of hate mail, and the left has been showing recently, how they would treat people who disagreed with them. It's funny because some of the death threats, I mean, I've reported it, and the people, they still have their accounts on Twitter. So, you can threaten violence and still keep your account, but you can't play a video of what a leftist is themselves saying.
Now, look, take this argument without the position of whatever your political opinion might be, whether you think that she's wrong for highlighting the ridiculousness of some liberal takes on social media, or the liberals are wrong for the things that they're doing in the first place. Make it just a conversation about whether or not it makes sense to ban or suspend an account that's simply redistributing something that was willingly put out by a different user, and not suspend the accounts of people who are threatening to kill that person. That's the world we're in currently in social media. Defenders of Twitter who say that Elon shouldn't be buying the platform will tell you it's already a platform of free speech. That is not even remotely true, as demonstrated by this one very simplistic example. And I think that it was brilliant the other night for Tucker Carlson to interview this person because of how it really just accidentally, or I'm sure somewhat purposefully, makes that argument. And I'm not always going to praise Tucker Carlson as someone who's brilliant. I'm all over the place in my takes on high profile people like that. But this was, because there's no greater hypocrisy than someone who's not making any content at all their own, who can't be on a platform, and the people who want to murder that person and how they can. All right, I'll move on. There's other things out there in the world, other things out there in the news. I did see this. I just want to touch on this very, very quickly. A few different high-profile college football coaches are saying the world of college football is becoming impossible to deal with because of how much some players are going to need to be paid after some of the changes in the world of college football. It is yet to be seen if that is true, but it's an interesting statement to believe, to think, to say that without, every single university being capable of paying these high-end dollars, we essentially have professional sport free agency in the world of athletes going to specific universities. I do wonder if that'll be the death of college football or college sports at some point down the road. We'll see. A quick break, a lot more. Craig Collins filling in on The Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
This is the Chad Benson Show. My name is Craig Collins filling in. Thrilled to be with you. Chad is back on Monday. Congrats to Chad, by the way, for being in the top 50 of the Heavy 100, which is a Radio Insider list that's very, very impressive that Chad is so high up on. Really cool to be sitting in on his show. He's a much better broadcaster than I am. That's also simply true. Moving on, and as I said, he'll be back on Monday. I saw this. I thought it was pretty interesting. CNN continues to talk about midterm elections and the terrible, terrible approval ratings of the current president. I think what's so significant here is that even CNN is acknowledging just how bad this is, and actually even saying on air, like, this is bad, as opposed to something that's, say, more critical. I think they demonstrate their position within this, but it's interesting to hear just how definitively, and we all know this, it's very easy for any human to see it, that approval ratings this low, tremendously, tremendously significant in the midterm elections. No real way to fix it when our president is shaking hands with imaginary people after giving speeches. That's something you can definitely go watch. I wish at times I could send that visual to you more easily because it means nothing on radio, but it's one of the most amazing things I've seen. But here's CNN.
Joining us now, Harry Etten, CNN senior data reporter. These numbers are really tough.
You know, John, I don't like just looking at one.
There's another way you could have said that, by the way. These numbers are terrible, super bad.
I like looking at multiple polls. And there were 4 different polls released this week. Quinnipiac, we had a Hart Public Opinion Strategies poll. That's with NBC or CNBC, Ipsos Reuters, CBS News, YouGov. I want you to look. These numbers kind of differ. They range from the low 30s to the low 40s. Low 40s is not good either. But
I like that version of it. They range from the low 30s to the low 40s. And by the way, the highest numbers on here are bad.
What's key is the lowest are tied for the low for the pollster. Lowest tier. lowest tier. This is 1 point off the lowest tier. And when you have 3 or 4 pollsters showing the lowest numbers for the president of the United States, that is indicative of a president who's in a lot of trouble, at least to where he has standing historically.
And honestly, sometimes I have these conversations now where you say something kind of very derogatory about the current president and his ineptability to run our country. And there is someone, depending on what kind of circle you're in, it's like, I don't know, I feel like you're being overly harsh to this president. And then you hear about stuff like that. You hear about the approval rating being as bad as it is because a lot of Democrats have to be admitting, certainly a lot of independents, and obviously the entire time a lot of Republicans, that this president has been uniquely terrible at a lot of things. Let's prove it a little bit more. Let's do some more demonstrations of the weird stuff going on in the world of President Biden. There was this that happened in the middle of the day the other day, and I can't get over it, so that's why I'm bringing it back. You've probably heard it at this point. Biden was asked by a reporter, is the U.S. going to go to Ukraine? Are we going to send officials there? The White House has since told us after this moment happened the other day that no, we're not going to be sending anyone there, which does make us look uniquely weak when Boris Johnson and others can just go over, they can just hang out, and we can't seem to do that, and we're supposed to be the most powerful country on the planet. And I believe we are, by the way. I'm not doubting our military strength. I'm doubting the strength of our leader. But his response to are we sending people was to joke with a reporter if she's willing to go. There is nothing more indicative of the fear that this president has or that he governs using or thinking about at all times than making a joke about the danger of going to Ukraine to a reporter as if that proves that we shouldn't go because she'd be scared to go.
Will you send senior officials to Ukraine?
Well, we're making that decision now. Thank you.
Who would you send?
What was the reason? You ready to go?
Are you ready to go? And then a fist bump, by the way, that you can't see, as if like, you willing? If we're not going to send anybody, are you going to do it? When did the president get comfortable making, I guess, what he thinks is a threat to a reporter to be the one that we send over to Ukraine because he doesn't think it'd be remotely safe at all or that we'd be capable of doing it? And again, other countries have done it. It demonstrates the weakness again and again and again. Here's some other stuff that was weird that he said over the last 24 hours that I think is valuable because, again, the approval ratings are so uniquely bad. He gave a hypothetical that is one of the most insane hypotheticals I've ever heard. And I like sometimes to like literally envision myself in the things he's saying. So I envision myself in this scenario, and then I envision myself being asked the question the president's going to say he would ask me during said scenario. And I'd have so many different responses, but let's let him set up what he plans to do to demonstrate a point, what he'd like to do to individuals. And I know he's not serious about this, but I can't get over how crazy this whole thing is.
United States of America, one of the busiest airports in the world, fixed in 2 weeks. And I got in trouble because it said if I took you into O'Hare Airport blindfold in the middle of the night, and took you into one of China's airports blindfolded in the middle of the night. I said, where are you, China or the United States? You'd probably think the Chinese airport was ours.
Why would you have to do it like that, sir? Why would you have to blindfold me in the middle of the night, take me to the center of an airport and be like, where are you? I'm Joe Biden, the president, and my friend the ghost here wants to hang out with us too. Like, why would we do it this way? Why wouldn't you just say the last time you visited O'Hare, or if you've ever traveled abroad to China, have you ever wondered if their airport seemed more like ours than ours did? And I don't know, like there's so many other versions of this than kidnapping, blindfolding, and pulling the blindfold off. Although I have to be honest, like I can't put that past the president, not because I think he's like, evil enough to try to kidnap a person. I think he'd get confused and do it. I think he'd be like, I got to show somebody. And then they'll understand. Let me kidnap this one person a little bit more.
It's so modern, so different. Well, this year...
I don't even care about this year. It's so modern, the Chinese airport. It's so different. They're great. This is essentially the narrative that this president at times continues to talk about. Who cares that Hunter Biden is in all these kind of controversies for the money he made, $5 million off of Chinese energy companies? Who cares about that? Let me continue to awkwardly praise China, a country who is uniquely a weakness for us right now in trying to prevent Russia's continued aggression in Ukraine. China is not helping the way that we would need them to, and instead we're flattering them. This all goes to that same point I was making a minute ago about former President Trump and about how so often now you see one narrative take hold kind of in mainstream media, and you wonder if that narrative is completely true or if some of it potentially could be wrong. Now, the thing I'm actually talking about specifically is that the president of the United States, or excuse me, the former president of the United States popped up on Sean Hannity's show. While he was there, Sean gave him a fairly teed up, simplistic question, a question about how what's going on in Russia, what's going on in Ukraine, is evil. Hannity called it evil. He wanted the president to do the same thing. And if you see this story anywhere over the last day or two, what you're going to see is Trump refuses to call Putin evil. Now, that's significant. And I could play that audio for you because it does happen the way I'm saying. He does avoid the question in a sense by actually moving on to something else, criticizing NATO, criticizing all the things that were in place when he was in office and how he got them to spend more money because the United States was the only country actually hitting any of the agreement there. But here's the thing. All of that narrative, all of that audio purposefully ignores what happened moments before on the same interview. And this is a couple days ago, but it's still going viral now. Former President Trump called what's happening in Ukraine genocide moments before. He was asked a question about how evil what's going on, what Vladimir Putin is doing in Ukraine with Russia's army is. He was asked that question pointedly, but he had already answered it.
Energy independence. It is so sad to watch. And now add to that what's going on in Ukraine. That's genocide. What's happening in Ukraine is people have never seen anything like that before.
Let me get to Ukraine in a minute.
But that happened on the same interview that everyone's criticizing. Remember when Biden, our current president, called it genocide, and then the White House backtracked it. The White House said he was just speaking emotionally. He wasn't talking about any sort of policy. He wasn't going after any specific world leader. Current President Biden. I don't know why I'm getting them confused so much right now. Current President Biden, there we go again, said that Vladimir Putin was evil and that he could not remain in power. The White House backtracked on it. The former president says that it's genocide, just like Biden does, but chooses not to go after in as harsh of terms, in the evil version of the word as terms, of Vladimir Putin. And what's so interesting about that is that if he were the sitting president right now, and I guess somehow had the administration that Biden has, they would backtrack if he did that. They would say, no, it's not. We're not talking about policy. That's not what the president should be doing or should be saying. So I believe, and some people might find this very hard to believe if you're very harsh critics of former President Trump, and I know there's a lot of them out there for a myriad of reasons, I believe that the former president is actually acting more presidential in reserving that indictment of Putin than our current president is. And the only reason I think that's not something I made up in my mind, something I decided on my own, is because of the administration's actions when our current president behaves the way media is demanding Trump behave. When our current president says the things that everyone thought Trump should have said, the White House corrects him. How can you have two situations that are so oddly different both be demanded of the person who was last in power and the person who currently is? I don't have an answer to that. I wonder if Elon Musk does and if he'd put it on his Twitter once he takes control of it. Quick break, a lot more. Craig Collins filling in. This is the Chad Benson Show.
Check out our Chad Benson Show Facebook page where you can hang out or hang your grievances out to dry. This is Chad Benson.
This is the Chad Benson Show. My name is Craig Collins filling in. I saw a headline that terrified me the other day, and that's probably extreme. I'm someone that likes the idea of space travel, likes the idea of going to other planets. If Elon Musk sends us to Mars, I'm probably going to try to go. But I'm not going to go if China tries to send me to Earth 2.0. Apparently, they're investing a lot of money in space exploration. with the ambition being of finding a replacement Earth, but not in our direct solar system. They're going into deep space for this. The Chinese Academy of Sciences is the one funding and doing it. I don't know why it sounds so scary for China specifically with everything that they do. I think we can figure out a portion of why this sounds scary. To ask people to board a spaceship and go to, quote, Earth 2.0, I don't think that's a thing, and I don't think anybody's going there. But apparently they're trying very hard to find this Goldilocks planet is what it's called, one in a perfect space somewhere else in the deep space part of the universe that we could eventually get to somehow. I recommend strongly, and I hope that this broadcast can be saved for the moment when that comes to actually be a thing, which I imagine is a long, long time from now. But I recommend strongly no one board that spaceship with China's flag on it being like, yeah, we'll be fine. You guys are going to Earth 2.0. The rest of us staying here, Earth 1. We're not going to be as lucky as you, don't worry. I also saw this. I like this story a lot. Tinder has a special mode for people who go to music festivals. It is called Festival Mode. It allows you to find someone to date for the entirety of a music festival by both saying you're in festival mode now, you're both at the same place, same time, and you're going to hang out for the entire music fest. This is a terrible idea, but an incredible idea. Apparently, Bonnaroo and a few others, Coachella, are ones that are testing this out. I don't think that you should commit your entire music festival to one stranger, or honestly do a lot of the things that probably happen at said music festivals. But I just think it's so interesting that of all the places, and I don't know why this is my take on this, but it certainly is, out of all the places where you think we'd be capable of having communication with other people, like capable of walking up to a stranger and being like, hey, you like the same music I do, we're hanging out at a festival, probably not doing all the things that you would do on your daily life. Maybe you're drinking a little more, partying a little harder. That seems to be the moment when it's easiest to talk to and pick up a friend, let's call it, to be as correct as possible for a day or two. And yet people still need to turn to social media to do it, or turn to the dating apps to do it. I feel bad and oddly intrigued by everyone who's rocking festival mode in the near future. I also loved this, just shifting gears again, a few quick stories. Apparently, new studies have demonstrated a really smart way, a life hack way, and I hate life hacks, but yet we're doing one right now, to grow plants quicker, kill a bunch of weeds on your plants. You should actually give them, according to these people, and I don't know who they are or why they did this research. Okay, I kind of do, but I don't care. You should give them milk, give it to plants, vodka, or soda. Any of the three of those, better than water at times. Vodka, soda, and milk. So many reactions to that idea. The first one simplistically being, since it is obviously a pretty tough time for a lot of us via inflation, how expensive of vodka are we talking about that you're pouring into that plant? If we're doing the giant thing of, the Admiral Nelsons or whatever, and I know that's not vodka, I think that might be okay. But if we're doing the fancier top shelf stuff, I think that's going to be too costly, certainly too costly right now. But how funny is that? How funny would that, if honestly, the only thing I thought of, and I don't know why my brain went to both of these places at once, if I hadn't seen this study and our president did, and I witnessed him in the near future dump some vodka into a plant, I would immediately say it's another sign that we have a tremendous problem. But again, apparently, at least for now, one set of researchers say that this is a good idea. I'm not telling you to definitely do it. I'm just saying that it's out there. And don't make your plant drink alone. You should definitely drink with your plant, I think, if you're going to feed any sort of alcohol to the plants you have in the home. By the way, my wife loves them, so I have a crap ton. So it would be a party here. Also, green tea, orange juice, a bunch of different things apparently can be given to your plant if need be. All right. One other quick one, and then I know we have to take a break. I don't know why I like this one so much. And I do want to make one point abundantly clear. This person is not talking about actual mental illness, just the normal crazy that some people hide at the beginning of a relationship. But a 23-year-old went viral on social media for saying that we no longer need to hide that regular crazy that some people have. We can be immediately bat and then a bleep word there from jump with any new boyfriend or girlfriend you get in a relationship with. because you just got to be real. You don't have to be the chill girl anymore, according to her. And almost 500,000 people liked her post and her information. You just got to go nuts from jump. And we all know the sliding scale of the amount of crazy and the amount of pretty that winds up being a real thing. This is Craig Collins filling in on the Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
This is the Chad Benson Show. My name is Craig Collins filling in. Thrilled to be with you. Chad is back on Monday. Jen Psaki recently criticized Fox News. That part's not shocking. I feel like if that's all I was going to tell you, that's unnecessary. What's uniquely interesting about it, though, is this rumored MSNBC gig that Jen is going to be taking soon, that she's negotiating while she's currently the press secretary in the White House, which is the weirdest, least ethical thing. Well, actually, no, I take that back. Hunter Biden's a human, so there's a lot of other crazy, unethical things that occur on a daily basis for this administration. But her activity in developing her own media gig, but she's supposed to represent the president in a fair manner, criticizing Fox News, uniquely unethical. It could be something that gets her challenged because is she in the position she's currently in, and not when it's totally fine for her to do it when she is the host of her own show on a cable news station that's utterly biased? Is she criticizing a media outlet to an extent that is, as I said, completely absent or wrong for the position she holds? And there's so many of these moments for Jen Psaki now. Someone who is, I'll admit this, uniquely good at not answering questions. She is tremendously good at avoiding or trying to lob questions back onto people. I do think often it's fairly obvious the way in which the lie is happening. So I don't think that I'm ever tricked by the Psaki, but I do think she navigates her way out of having to say anything negative, which, again, is also something interesting when you do play that whataboutism game that I don't love to play all the time. But we have to play about the way in which other press secretaries for the past president handled their time in that position, lying to us constantly, and how that was an obsession we were told about all the time. And then this one doing it, lying to us constantly. And I don't even really mean that about the last people, by the way. I just mean I guess that's part of the gig, is just 100% forgiven. With this administration and this White House press secretary, never telling the truth is fine. Nobody hates you and wants you to not be. Look, we're having a little bit of a technical difficulty here. We'll take a quick break. A lot more coming up. Craig Collins filling in on the Chad Benson Show.
Being antisocial sucks. Hang with Chad's friends on Facebook, The Chad Benson Show. And if you just need some alone time, head on over to Twitter at Chad Benson Show. Either way, we can't wait to meet the real you.
This is The Chad Benson Show. My name is Craig Collins filling in. Thrilled to have you with us. Lots of stuff to talk about. I thought it was very interesting. This is not political, which, thank God, we need some things that are not. That the Tom Brady last football sale got voided because a lawyer got involved and did some amazing lawyering things. I don't know why the organization that was selling the football or the owner of the football would decide to let this person out of the deal. It is fair Like I'm happy for the dude who's not going to pay $500,000 for a football that will not be Tom Brady's last official pass or last touchdown pass in the NFL. But the fact that it all happened is kind of amazing. I wonder if there was a clause of some kind that anticipated a return, a possible return, an end of retirement for Tom Brady. But now this guy who was on the line for, as I said, $518,000 for a quote-unquote last touchdown pass will only have to pay a small amount of money and be completely out. And then that football becomes essentially worthless. Because, well, I doubt worthless is the right answer, but certainly not to the degree it is. So, again, whatever lawyer made that happen is a tremendously valuable person in the world of lawyering, which I think is now a verb. I'm using it that way. I also saw this. I thought this was interesting, and I'm going to navigate this the best way I can because it's a little bit more risque in nature. But we're going to just mention it quickly, and then we'll move on to other things. The Quebec Health Ministry had to apologize for putting something up on social media that about 100,000, I guess, people may have interacted with in a 40-minute period. It was supposed to be a link to medical information. Instead, it was a link to an adult website. I don't know how that happens. I don't know what person's going to get canned, if it's an intern or someone that's out of a job now, and how you do the accident of that specific website, a fairly popular one in the world of these kind of things. And I don't know exactly what was on the link, by the way. I don't want to lose my job, so I didn't click it. But just the fact that could happen is sort of interesting. And I do wonder if it's on purpose, with so many people criticizing the medical community so much and the messaging or the confusing messaging of it. I wonder if someone decided on purpose to go rogue and go ahead and do something like that because the regular link probably doesn't matter at all. All right, I'm going to talk about some serious things. I'm going to play some audio of Chris Wallace and CNN Plus, by the way, his new show, which is just a hilarious platform in and of itself. CNN and its parent company had planned on putting $1 billion into that platform over the course of the next however many years, I think 5 to 10 years, something like that. They're now stripping hundreds of $1 million out of that budget because they only have about 10,000 subscribers, and they were hoping for a couple million in the first couple of years of this platform. But all of that is to say that even though this platform is terrible and no one really watches it, Chris Wallace went viral because he interviewed Joe Biden's sister, Valerie. He asked her about Hunter Biden, which was interesting. She gave the most non-answer possible, and Chris just let it happen and moved on. But it was interesting for a moment to see this former Fox individual who I think got criticized a lot for some of the positions he'd take on that channel, now working for the exact opposite type of outlet and asking a question as bold as this one, as valuable as it, but getting an answer that seems just detached with reality.
Given his lack of experience in these areas, energy in Ukraine and energy in China, you can understand where people would think, gee, they were doing business with Hunter because they wanted to have some influence on Joe. Would it have been better for him just not to get involved in those deals?
The answer, by the way, is just simply yes. And she is going to laugh a little and kind of sort of say yes. But the answer is just yes and move on.
Hindsight is everything. Look, from 2000, what election was...
Actually, I take that back because I forgot the exact way she executed that. She kind of didn't want to say the hindsight is everything or it's important. She kind of decided, even in this moment, I'm not going to criticize the obviously unethical things that appear to be happening with my nephew.
Just not to get involved in those deals?
Hindsight is everything. Look, from 2000, what election was 2020, maybe 2018, these same charge, same accusations, same innuendos. Nothing has come of it.
Yet is probably the last word she meant to put there at the end. Yet, because an investigation is ongoing and a whole lot could come of it. It's so interesting to think about that story in just a little more detail and the way in which so many positions they're taking are so impossible. They simply aren't. I think I've said this before, filling in on this show for Chad. I don't think it's any less embarrassing. I mean, it's probably less criminal, but no less embarrassing if the narrative that the White House is selling us is actually true. And that's the one where Hunter Biden and Joe Biden's brother decide to make a bunch of money off of his political position because there's no way those individuals are making energy deals with Chinese companies tied to the Chinese government if their, well, father and or brother isn't a high-ranking, influential political person, even if it's in between when he's back in office. Those conversations started when he was the vice president. But every single part, all of that, if they just didn't tell him, is as embarrassing. It's just like this administration constantly correcting and changing the position of the guy who's quote unquote in charge. Every time he says something that they change, it demonstrates a lack of leadership and or authority that the president has in his own White House, which is certainly a bad thing. But beyond that, the idea that his own family would make millions of dollars off of him and he wouldn't know about it it's unbelievable, by the way, because there's several moments of proof that he definitely seemed to know a whole bunch about it and benefited as well. And I'm sure there will be more investigations to prove those points out. But I just love the fact that they already accept the argument that he could be that dumb, that they don't deny the moments anymore as it gets harder and harder to do. They just simply deny that Joe Biden was in on it, which, again, worst look to me. I also want to play this since we are talking about the mask mandates. MSNBC did a bit of a report, talked to some CEOs of airlines, including Delta's CEO, about how customers would like to see the mask mandate drop. Employees would like to see the mask mandate drop. Why do they exist? Who is it protecting? Who is desiring this other than it allows the government to continue to ask for money to fund more treatment of COVID and whatnot? They're asking for more money to fund that fourth shot. If they abandon all of these mitigation efforts and go as far as to do it even on an airline, it gets much harder to ask for that money. But I do like that the industry itself is essentially now begging for us to stop.
We think from the pandemic stage to the endemic stage, and we need to learn how to live with it without being so restrictive.
Delta Airlines CEO Ed Bastian also pointing to the challenges his own crew members face.
Are you comfortable with your passengers dropping masks now?
I think our customers are comfortable dropping masks. I think our employees are tired of wearing masks. Our employees, especially on board those flights, are tired of policing masks.
You know, that's the most interesting point, too, the idea that the employees are so annoyed with policing the masks, because I've never felt anything other than empathy for the person who's standing in the front of any of those stores early on in the pandemic trying to force people to wear masks because the company told them to, and having some people not want to wear masks, and that employee having to get into a fight that they're in no way, shape, or form a decision maker on. Certainly in the world of airlines and all this government overreach there, this has been a tremendously valuable and continued conversation where the only true, I guess, in my opinion, end result will be at some point to finally acknowledge as best you can that every part of this needs to go away. And I know that cases are going up. I will say that anyone that looks at that, that is not the right barometer. And I know I don't want to do an overly COVID-centric segment, but that is not the right barometer any longer to understand the seriousness of outbreak and or illness of COVID-19. It's not even close. Hospitalization can even be flawed too, by the way, but it's a better one. And of course, loss of life, serious illness, the best of them. And all of those numbers are trending down. And yet we're still having these conversations, these disjointed from reality conversations that so many buy into. I can't tell you the amount of times now that I go somewhere, see someone wearing a mask, just like you saw at the beginning of, say, the pandemic, and this person seems resentful of now a majority of people around them that are not wearing masks. It's a confusing moment to wonder how, if at all, anyone react to the person who seems to be very upset with everyone else, while also being honest about the situation we're currently in. All right, I want to shift gears. Something else I thought was interesting. I don't know why I think this is so interesting, but I do wonder how common this could become. So a young woman went viral on social media for talking about a first date she went on where a date took her to Target, took her to a Target store. I guess the guy pitched it in the messages they were exchanging between each other by saying, oh, you're going to love it. This is the absolute best place for us to go. It's going to be a great time. She was skeptical, thought that it probably wasn't going to be much fun because it's a convenience store, but it had everything they needed. They got there. They were able to hang out, have a bit of food, walk around the store like you'd go on any other walk. maybe hang out a little bit and say the garden area or the outdoor furniture area. I find this hilarious. The biggest reason why, I guess for me, is probably because dating is way easier now than when I was in the dating world. I couldn't have brought someone to Target and have them be as happy as this woman is about it. But I do have some audio of her reaction to the idea that she, got brought out to a store and actually had a great time. And I'm just dumbfounded. And I do wonder if now I'll see more. Like the next time I'm at one of these stores, if I'll see what looks like a brand new couple on a first date and I don't know how to react to it, I guess I'll just leave it alone. Much like that person wearing the mask should probably leave everyone alone who's not.
A guy from Hinge asked me on a date, and here we are. This is where he wanted to go. So I'm here.
Okay, I am home now, and honestly, it was pretty good because he pointed out if we had just gone on a walk in a park, it would be basically the same thing, except the weather wasn't great, so it wouldn't have been a good time to go on a walk in the park. But also it helped conversation because we could just point to things and be like, oh, have you ever played this game or whatever? So yeah, if you need a new date idea, try it out.
We could just point to stuff in the store. We can get a little bit of shopping done. Oh, have you ever played that game? Or have you ever shopped at the clothing area of Target? I don't know why I'm so interested in this story. I've talked to people about it who seem to think it's a really cool, fun idea. And I think it's just jealousy. I think all I am is jealous of the current generation and how easy dating seems to have become, not just from the apps, but that the date itself is just a window shopping date at a Target store. That I think about my wife and the first date I took her on and how that would not have been good for me. And not because my wife is in any way, shape, or form demanding. She's actually very low maintenance. I feel like I almost got in trouble there with how this take would have come out. But that's just the least do we go on errands next? Is that what you do? You're like, hey, I gotta do a couple things. I don't know if you should want to come with me on those, but I'm gonna pick up some dry cleaning, gonna do a couple other things. Seems like a good date. One last one, just a real quick other story, and then we'll take a break here. Time and temperature phone numbers have been resurrected. I think specifically in Florida is where this story is coming from, but more and more places have always existed in some cities. A lot of cities, because of how popular they are. People love the time and temp phone call. We give out time and temperature often in the world of radio, and sometimes I wonder with how digital our society becomes if we need to do that, but certainly demonstrated via this story that we do, because a lot of people love to dial that number, and I don't know if these are people who are technically, not there in the world of smartphone or whatnot for whatever reason, maybe by choice or not fully, buying into it, whatever it might be, or people who just prefer it. They just want to know the time and temperature. They got the phone number saved so they can dial and call it. But the fact that these still exist and that they're all throughout the country and probably going to pump out some more of them is about as awesome as going on a first date to a grocery store. I don't know. I feel like both of those things might go hand in hand together. Maybe you take someone to a Target, check the time and temp to see if you can go outside the Target to anywhere else in the real world. All options we could try out. Not sure if we will, but that's just the way I react to some of these crazier stories. All right, a lot more coming up. Craig Collins filling in on the Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
This is the Chad Benson Show. My name is Craig Collins filling in. Thrilled to be here. Lots of stuff to talk about. Chad will be back on Monday. I wanted to play this audio. Thought it was very interesting. First of Elon Musk talking about how he's not after making money in his bid to buy Twitter. And then I want to play something by Russell Brand, someone that I continue to enjoy takes from, and I certainly didn't think I would, as Russell describes himself as predominantly a liberal, someone who predominantly disagrees with a lot of the concepts he goes viral for on a daily basis. But first, Elon Musk saying that buying Twitter is not about money.
This is not a way to sort of make money. My strong intuitive sense is that having a public platform that is maximally trusted and broadly inclusive is extremely important to the future of civilization. So I don't care about the economics at all.
Okay, so I just want to reiterate what he said and whether or not I guess you believe him. The world's richest man would like to take a crack at owning one of the most popular social media sites currently in our society in order to make it more fair, not to make it one-sided the other way, the way that it's not at all right now, the way that censorship happens because of, I think, one, the location of these companies and just the tunnel vision that would be a Silicon Valley company thinking everybody thinks a certain way and censoring things off of the platform that don't deserve to be removed. But a person wants to spend a vast amount of their fortune in order to make something better, to make free speech, a core aspect of what it means to be an American, more protected on a social media site. You don't have to agree. Like, here's the other thing. You don't have to agree with the opinion of the person who has the right to say the thing that they think. That's not a rule of society and certainly shouldn't be a rule of social media. So if Elon gets what he wants, if he takes over Twitter, which seems terribly unlikely as the board is discussing a poison pill approach, which means you dilute the value of Elon's shares by selling a whole bunch of stock to everyone but him at a discounted price instead of selling all of the stock to him at a overvalued price. It makes no sense in the world of business to do one instead of the other. But in doing all of that, essentially what you're saying is we don't want a free, a public, a valuable platform that actually reflects the society that our founding fathers attempted to create. Now, here's Russell Brand. Russell Brand is going off on censorship in the world of big tech. He says a lot of, I guess some people would say, hot take things. But again, he's someone that continues to, for some reason, captivate those that I don't think thought he would wind up agreeing with on all of these issues. And he does have a show, a podcast, a thing out there in the world. And so here's the latest one. He will eventually equate what big tech is now to a lot of the more dangerous things of the past, where ideas were being ripped from society as opposed to being ideas that were being cultivated or simply allowed in society.
If you live in an authoritarian state where you cannot communicate, that model will be mapped onto issue after issue. Oh, we're banning Russia today because we don't want the Russian state having access to our views. What about Russian dissidents? What about, like, interviews with Slavoj Žižek about the nature of authoritarianism? Might that be an interesting perspective to hear? All you've got to decide is, do you think that epidemiologist has a point, or do you think he's a dangerous propagandist? And now that you've seen Fauci having to be censored himself for stuff he said in the past, it's pretty clear the way the wind's blowing. We're actually at the point of eradicating history. Do you know another maxim that describes that? Book burning. Who does book burning? Have a look at history. Is it the goodies?
I like that he calls them the goodies, by the way. Are the goodies the ones who burn books? Yes or no? Are the goodies the ones who do this? Yes or no? Is our society at a point that is so utterly flawed that when we do talk about Elon Musk now, and when you do just simply scroll the platform he'd like to join, you have so many people, and I love this, threatening to leave Twitter if Elon Musk is made in charge of it, because all he's said publicly is he wants it to be fair. He has not said he wants it to be unfair. You know what's really interesting in a lot of these, and maybe this topic we've talked about for too much over the last few days, I'm not sure. I can't help get more of this. But what's really interesting to me is the way in which now, more often than not, the reaction to something happens before the actual action. Before we even know what something would be. The people who love Twitter now, who think it's such a great place for their ideas and such a wonderful place for censorship of other ideas, they have no real concept of what it could look like in the future if Elon were to buy it and attempt to change aspects of it. They just know they hate it without even trying it. We have that happen so much now. It's another thing I talk about a lot when I think people share an opinion on something, no matter what it is, if it's a hot button issue, enough of one, and I guess Elon Musk is one of those examples for sure, the person you're talking to then assumes to know everything about you. They know your position on every other thing. This actually happened to me recently. I was talking about an issue that was completely disconnected from something else, and someone brought up a totally different political issue that's out there in the world and said, well, I know you think this too. And I said, how? I was just curious how. We so often now make those reactions or make those logic jumps to people's faces about what we do or don't think other people would say based on, I guess, what we see out there in the world of social media. Because that's truly, in my opinion, the only way we're really reacting to any of this. Anyway, there's a lot of other things out there. There's a lot of moments where our president was uniquely confusing in a conversation he had just the other day. One of those is when he continues to claim that he was a professor of some kind. He was a full professor at the University of Pennsylvania, I believe is the quote. He was paid $1 million. He did never teach a class there. I don't know how that makes you a professor. But then again, current Biden, who wants to shake thin air, might believe that is all it takes to be a teacher.
As a matter of fact, for 4 years, I was a full professor at the University of Pennsylvania.
I love that. Here, let me play it one more time.
I've been on a lot of university campuses. As a matter of fact, for 4 years, I was a full professor at the University of Pennsylvania.
Yeah, it doesn't mean the same thing if you just get paid a bunch of money to not do stuff. I know Hunter confuses you a lot. I know Hunter got $5 million from China to do nothing for them, but it doesn't mean that you actually hold that job title or did a good job with it if you're going to say that I made a whole bunch of money doing that. All right, let's dive into some of the other ones from Biden because I do like a lot of them. This is probably my favorite one, and the only reason it's my favorite, I don't agree with any portion of it. It's only my favorite one because of how much of a lie it is, how much the president would know it's a lie, and the way in which he's going to try to tell you that it's not a lie. I just kind of love every part of it.
Dad. Putin's invasion of Ukraine has driven up gas prices and food prices all over the world. Ukraine and Russia are the 1 and 2 largest wheat producers in the world. We're number 3. They're shut down. We saw that in yesterday's inflation data. What people don't know is that 70% of the increase in inflation was a consequence of Putin's price hike because of the impact on oil prices. 70%.
Yeah, people don't know that because that's not true. You know what people don't know? A whole bunch of things that are lies. People don't know that my son Hunter is a totally honest guy. No one seems to know that right now, so let me just say it. Why does it matter less when some politicians lie than other ones? And I know almost all politicians do, but that's yet another bold-faced lie. And what makes me even more mad about it, if I'm just being honest for a second here, is that you're politicizing something that you've called, President Biden, and President Trump has called genocide. You're using a moment uniquely bad in the history of the world, because I do think we will look back on what Russia has done to Ukraine as if it came very close to some of the more significant conflicts that happened throughout the entire world, World War I, World War II, that's what I mean. But we'll look back on some of those things, say how tremendously horrible this was, and then realize that the Democrats, who pretend to be the good guys all the time in most conversations, are the ones who politicized it to their benefit. Someone in some room told Biden, because he's certainly not all there enough to do this on his own, but someone in some room told Biden that we should use the Putin invasion of Ukraine as a way to justify inflation, and he continues to do it even though people know it's not true. And even though the media outlets that typically agree with him tell us how untrue that stance is, it continues to be used. It should actually make you feel gross about the way that politics and politicians work and the way that they see opportunity in what is uniquely any sort of scenario that most human beings, and there's several examples of this, would feel has no opportunity whatsoever in it. The world of politics is uniquely bad, and that is one of the better examples of that position. I will take a break, a lot more. Craig Collins filling in on the Chad Benson Show.
Warning, no snowflake zone. Uninformed opinions are in danger of melting. The Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. My name is Craig Collins filling in. Thrilled to be with you. Lots of stuff going on in the world to talk about. Some of it serious, a whole lot of it not. I saw a few things out there. The first one certainly much more in the serious camp. The reports on what's going on in Shanghai and other parts of China to try to control the COVID outbreak that's going on in China right now are about as scary as it gets. PPE-clad police officers are doing things like holding people down by their necks throughout all of China, arresting them, forcing them back into apartments that they're deciding to quarantine, isolation hubs being created, like all the scariest versions of you have no rights at all, and you're going to be treated as though everyone can do whatever they want. The government essentially can do whatever they want with you, and they can say it's in the name of public health. Scary version. Then you have Dr. Anthony Fauci out there saying that China handled this better than anybody else. I'm being unfair. It's out of context, the way in which he said that part. But he meant early on in the pandemic, and I'll play the audio for you, that China had a very low case count. At least they told us that's what their case count was for COVID-19. And they were doing the same thing. There were reports that they were potentially going door to door, forcing vaccinations on people in areas of outbreak. Early on in the pandemic, I don't know how they had a vaccine so quickly. Curiosity, I guess, is what's going to get me here. But they were doing all kinds of stuff to respond to coronavirus in whatever manner they saw fit, and you had no rights at all. In this interview with Fauci on MSNBC, the issue of Shanghai specifically is being discussed, and Fauci can't help but offer odd praise to China.
How concerning is the outbreak in China? We see the lockdown in Shanghai, and the State Department now ordering families out, all non-essential workers out of Shanghai.
Well, China has a number of problems, two of which are that their complete lockdown, which was their approach, a strictest lockdown that you'd never be able to implement in the United States.
That doesn't sound like he's saying, by the way, that you should never implement it. He said you'd never be able to. I don't know why that's uniquely scary.
Although that prevents the spread of infection, and remember early on, they were saying, and I think accurately, that they were doing better than almost anybody else. But lockdown has its consequences. You use lockdowns.
Oh, wait, hold on. I'm really excited if any of the consequences are the ones I'm thinking of. I'm not anticipating that's going to be what he says.
To get people vaccinated so that when you open up, you won't have a surge of infections.
Yeah, swing and a miss for me. That's not what I thought he was going to say, or not what I hoped he was going to say. Because one, when the lockdown started, we had no vaccine. So if the lockdowns, and if you remember at first, we were told it was just going to be 2 weeks to stop the spread. If, according to expert Fauci, are done to have a vaccine, that was a year away early on in the pandemic. So is he saying, and I'm diving fairly deep to try to find this through line, so I get it if this isn't what he intends, but I think the breadcrumbs are there, and my tinfoil hat, I'll go ahead and put it on. Is he saying that the intention of the lockdown from jump for him was to do it for as long as humanly possible? And when he praises China and the aggressive lack of any kind of semblance of free will or any sort of rights at all, when they do lockdowns the way they did them, is he somewhat jealous of those lockdowns? I can't tell. I can play the audio again and we can decide if the praise is odd. And then also the end part about the vaccine is uniquely worrisome when he advised the lockdown before we had one.
Lockdown, which was their approach, a strictest lockdown that you'd never be able to implement in the United States. Although that prevents the spread of infection, and remember early on, they were saying, and I think accurately, that they were doing better than almost anybody else. But lockdown has its consequences. You use lockdowns to get people vaccinated so that when you open up, you won't have a surge of infections.
I'm sorry. Every part of that, to me, I'm hearing all the conspiracy theory moments. And then actually, the one other thing about the China praise that's in there, when he says that China was saying how they were doing better than anybody else, why would Fauci still trust them? What part of this? And he's not a doctor I like to go after all the time. I know that he gets politicized often. I know that sometimes very much deservedly so. But other times, to me, Fauci is just acting like any doctor you encounter in your life ever. They're giving you the only version of how they think you should live your life that is utterly unrealistic because it's taking too many of the, you have to do everything exactly the way you're supposed to do it. and you can't live your life any other way version of thinking. A good example is, say, you eat too many snacks and you go to the doctor and you're like, should I keep eating snacks? I know this is different. I know this is a different type of conversation. It's not a perfect comparison to COVID by any stretch, but I think it's valuable in the thinking of a doctor's advice. And they're like, you can't have any snacks. Snacks are bad. Well, we got to live life. In the world of making a living, small businesses have to be open. All of these things are just differences in how a scientist or a doctor or the embodiment of science approaches a conversation. I love that he said that once. And how everybody else approaches it with a sense of realism. But this is uniquely even worse. This, to me, is those moments that people were afraid of, those moments of, hold on, what is he saying? Why is he saying it? How much of this is politically motivated? All right, I want to move on. One other quick thing. I know it was a long bit on a serious topic. I saw this survey of how people like to eat their peeps. Totally different conversation. Just in time for Easter. I don't know how many people are people out there, although I was very happy I just said that without stuttering, without bitening it. Do you like chicks or bunnies? Do you like fresh or stale? Do you like decapitated, or do you nibble on them? 64% of people say they prefer the chick peep to the bunny peep, even though there is no difference in taste whatsoever. 88% enjoy peeps more than when they're fresh out of a package than letting them sit out stale, which means if you're one of the 12% of the stale peep people, it's okay. You're just in the vast minority. 81% say that peeps remind them of Easter, which certainly makes sense. I think you can buy them at other times. I never buy peeps except during Easter, and I actually do it because my wife loves them, and my wife doesn't eat many snack foods. But honestly, like the last 2 times I think that we made a pit stop while we were going somewhere, and I ran into a convenience store, she told me, oh, and grab a Peeps. I'm like, okay. And that never happens. But I don't know. I guess you get some sort of craving for it. 88% of people, as I said, enjoy them fresh out of the bag. My wife is definitely one of those people. All right, a lot more to talk about. Some of it serious, more of it hopefully silly. It is a Friday after all. Craig Collins filling in on the Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
This is the Chad Benson Show. My name is Craig Collins filling in. Thrilled to have you with us. Lots and lots of stuff to talk about, but there's no way that you can't start off any conversation with asking just how broken our current president is after he tried to shake the air. I mean that honestly, and I know I've been talking about it a lot, but I can't get over the fact that the President of the United States, after giving a statement, a speech yesterday, turned to his right, put his hand out to no one. There literally is no one approaching him in any fashion whatsoever, waited for a handshake, put out the full palm for the handshake, and when it didn't happen, just sort of wandered off the stage. That has to be a moment that we wonder quite a bit about for quite some time because of how uniquely scary, and I even mean this without it being like a dark sense of humor too, but uniquely scary it is for this man's mental health. Now, I will play this. This is audio of our president saying, as he often does, that the price at the pump was a conversation that hit his kitchen table because he grew up in a situation where if the gas prices went up, his family would talk about it because, again, he's your everyday guy. Before I even play this audio, I need you to know that during his childhood, gas prices were flat. So that is not something that his kitchen table ever would have needed to talk about. But just so you know, it's something that would have come up had he been president, I guess, in some sort of weird time loop and ruined the oil and gas industry then, too.
Now, I know that we're still facing challenges of high prices, inflation. I grew up in a family where when the price of gasoline went up at the pump, it was a conversation at the kitchen table with my dad.
Now, I don't know if it obviously was never a conversation because it never really went up, what he means by that or how he knows that or where that thought comes from. There was also this very quick moment that I liked a lot when he said, no, you can cheer for me. It's all right. People aren't sure if they should clap or not. My approval rating is in the low 30s to low 40s, depending on who you ask. Most of them an all-time low of the polls recently. But now you can still clap for me.
And look, you can cheer. It's all right.
I also like the mild applause that happens there. It's like, you guys can applaud me.
It's all right.
Maybe we do it real quick. Maybe we, like some of us, just throw a few claps out there and then we're good again. But as I said, his approval ratings are uniquely bad. The type of conversation that is popping up all over. Every single news organization is talking about it. Even CNN brings up the conversation now. And I like it when I say even CNN, that his ratings are just tremendously bad just in front of a midterm election. This is the reason you politicize things like the invasion of Ukraine by Russia into being the excuse for all of our inflation issues. But let's let CNN tell you just how bad this is.
There is brand new polling out on the presidential approval rating, and it's not good for President Biden. Joining us now, Harry Etten, CNN senior data.
I just like that intro a lot, and it's not good. The good is not there for this situation.
Reporter, these numbers are really tough.
John, I don't like just looking at one poll. I like looking at multiple polls. And
I like to make sure that I get punched in the face by everybody, not just one group of people.
4 different polls released this week. Quinnipiac, we had a Hart Public Opinion Strategies polls. That's with NBC or CNBC, Ipsos Reuters, CBS News, YouGov. I want you to look. These numbers kind of differ. They range from the low 30s to the low 40s. Low 40s is not good either. But what's key is...
I'm sorry. I have to stop it again because I love that moment when the expert's like, hey, low 40 approval rating, that's not good. I know this screen you're looking at right now shows it as the highest numbers on here. In case you're confused, that's also bad.
Low 40s is not good either. But what's key is the lowest are tied for the low for the pollster. Lowest tier. This is 1 point off the lowest tier.
All the numbers are really low, and nobody thinks the president is doing a good job, and this is bad for Democrats. Solutions? No, we're not doing that today. That's not something we're on, but we definitely think that the challenge is there, and we're not really sure how to fix it. I just think that is so interesting, how this conversation evolves and how it goes and how we get to this place. Because actually, you know what? I can compare it to something else. So Tucker Carlson did this interview the other night with the leader of that Amazon warehouse that unionized out of Staten Island, Christian Smalls. Tucker was after a specific thing. Carlson wanted to talk about how AOC specifically, but actually as the union guy demonstrates, most Democrats who said they were with them in this fight didn't show up at the most important time. And he actually, for whatever reason, Christian decides to go the other road in criticizing those politicians. But every part of this is so uniquely interesting to me because it's yet another failure of living up to the promise to your base, to the people that you actually think will come out and support you, the people that are sort of the core need for any side. This is what people say about Republicans when they say they're so far to the Trump side of the aisle or so far to the right and that the base is just too hard to penetrate. It seems as though Democrats no longer care about their base. This is one of those moments of proof.
So were you surprised that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who has said repeatedly that she's on the side of the worker against the corporation, wasn't standing with you at the barricades?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't just her. It was all of them pretty much. It's not
fair.
I don't want it to make it just between us and AOC because, a lot of them didn't show up. And, once again, we have no ill will against them. We know that whether they showed up or not, they didn't make or break our election. We just had to continue to organize.
It's kind of amazing to hear someone who went from getting fired by Amazon, a company that uniquely seems to need a checks and balances system, which Tucker's about to say in a second. Tucker's someone, obviously a Republican, not typically a pro-union kind of guy, but someone who thinks that this might have made more sense. Democrats' golden opportunity maybe to step to the forefront of that conversation and take a lot of credit for the success of it. And maybe if Tucker is demonstrating, have support from across the aisle by some, and they did none of it. They just said the words. Because right now in the Democratic Party, that's all that matters. Say the right words. None of the actions are actually important. And obviously with the approval ratings of the president, when that's all you do and let thing after thing fall to the wayside, you do wind up with just a myriad of problems all at once. But here's Tucker saying, and the reaction back to, I wouldn't normally support this kind of thing, but for you guys and the company you're up against, I'm uniquely in on this. You'd think AOC would be too. Someone who criticized Amazon quite adamantly at times during her first few years in her position.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird moment because, I'm on the right. I've never been particularly pro-union, but it does seem like Amazon needs some counterbalance. Like, it's this huge company. The workers have no power, and maybe we could, share a little power with people who work there. So that's my view anyway. So tell us where you are in your organizing efforts.
What's so crazy to me, again, is all of that statement, and actually he'll go on to say exactly what they're at. And I can play that audio too, I guess. I think that the most interesting point, though, is certainly a guy, Tucker Carlson, that has a reputation by a lot to be very, very far to a side of the aisle, interviewing and having a conversation with an Amazon worker that successfully unionized about the value of said union, all of this. And I don't mean this because I like to see things politicized, but just sort of shocking that it's not used as an opportunity by those who would be on the side of the political aisle that expect it. Tucker Carlson is one of the voices that's praising this person and doing it with him live on the show.
Well, right now, we're fighting for a contract. Amazon's disputing the election results. So we're in walking and chewing bubble gum at the same time. We're fighting for a contract. We're preparing for another election in 2 weeks on April 25th. We're going to be voting at a second location directly across the building that we just unionized. So we're in the thick of a fight right now, a legal battle.
And we don't know if anybody's really supporting us or anybody's really out there except you, Tucker Carlson. Again, it's just sort of amazing to me. I guess that's why I lay on this point for a little bit here, is that out of all the people, when I woke up, I guess yesterday is when part of that happened, I did not expect to eventually find myself with a topic where Tucker Carlson is taking kind of the forefront approach to highlighting successful unionization in this country instead of Democrats. That's how broken the party is right now and how little support even their core base seem to have for them, miss after miss occurring every single day. All right, a quick break, a lot more. Craig Collins filling in on the Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show, where we reach across the aisle and occasionally poke someone in the eye.
This is the Chad Benson Show. My name is Craig Collins filling in. I have been thrilled that there's been baseball for the past couple weeks. That is something that during the offseason we were not sure was going to be a thing. Baseball got very close and actually did cancel some games, but luckily we'll have a full season. Here's one of the reasons why I love this sport so much. My favorite team, the New York Yankees, which I'm sure will not get me as much support as it will get me hate for saying it, but it's okay. The Yankees haven't won a World Series in a very long time for the Yankees, so maybe don't hate us until we win another one. And yes, I say us, I'm part of the organization. Anyway, the Chicago White Sox had a uniquely fun game. They hit 2 straight-up pop flies. These are ones where you get so far under the ball that it really is going straight up in the infield, pretty much just over home plate, barely fair as far as a hit goes. Or, well, it's supposed to be an out. But because the wind was so uniquely crazy in Chicago, the Windy City yesterday, 2 hits in a row like that landed. It was amazing. I have the audio, which probably doesn't sell it anywhere near as much as the video, although I do like the call in the second of the 2 hits. But this is what it sounds like when you are dumbfounded, 1, by how bad the wind is, of course, but 2, by how professional athletes start to resemble the children that maybe you're bringing to Little League for the first or second year.
1-2. Popped up again. All right, Gilbert. And the catcher, Raleigh, can't make the play. Adams on his way to second. We told you it was going to be wild and woolly. We'll do it again. It's good offense, right? Let's see. Everybody's on the case. And eventually Crawford puts it on the deck. Now this is the way to attack Seattle this afternoon. Put it up in the vortex. It's 2-1.
Put it up in the vortex. It's 2-1 is one of my favorite sports quotes I've now heard of all time. I know it's definitely not as significant of a game as, say, the Miracle on Ice, or do you believe in miracles? Yes. But there's something tremendously fun about that part of this sport. That's what makes baseball a sport that is so important in our society. Not just the errors and the silliness of this moment, but just all the different ways that I think that uniqueness plays itself out in a sport that's tremendously hard. Even just getting a hit or hitting a home run, statistically the hardest things to do in the world of sports. Again, well, I'm going to say that. If you want to correct me, I don't have to listen. This is a one-sided conversation I'm very much a fan of at this moment. But I'll play it again because, like, something about it is just, and honestly, the only other thing that I've been thinking about, this is a silly thing for me to be thinking about when baseball returned, was how cool that game was last year. The White Sox participated in it. So did the Yankees. The game at the Field of Dreams field. How cool was that moment in a world of, like, little kiddom meets sports and professional athletes, or I don't know, just everything about it. Even if Costner took a really long time to wander his way up to the mound and throw the first pitch, something about that was uniquely baseball, uniquely American to me, even if this sport is one that I guess is waning in popularity with the younger people. All right, I'm taking a long time to get back to this clip, but there's just something about it that's just magical, and here we go. Try it out again.
Now this is the way to attack Seattle this afternoon. Put it up in the vortex. It's 2-1.
Honestly, I hope that we get a lot more of those kind of unique moments in the world of baseball. The 7-run comeback in the 9th inning, all those things are what make that sport so great, and I'm so happy, and I've been for about 2 weeks now that sport is back. All right, moving on. Other things in the news. This is not going to shock you, at least the location of this story. It's out of Florida. A guy was sentenced to 2 years in federal prison for stealing golf carts. I don't say one golf cart, stealing multiple golf carts. The guy got away with 63 golf carts before he got arrested in 7 states. The total amount of money, $283,500. He'd then sell the stolen golf cart under the same alias every single time, Mason Weber. So if you bought a golf cart in the last, a couple years from Mason Weber, it probably was a hot golf cart. He's 45 years old. His actual name is Nathan Nelson. As I said, sentenced to 2 years in federal prison, but came up with the concept that I'm just keeping these carts and this is going to be a business. I don't think I've ever wanted to keep a golf cart. You know, I definitely enjoy the ride along. And honestly, if I'm going to talk just a second for a story that's about a week old, in the world of golf, watching Tiger Woods participate in the Masters was sort of amazing. I know that the car accident that made him almost lose his career is one that you could blame on him. That doesn't seem to matter in the world of sports when someone is capable of playing as uniquely challenging as it probably was to play, and play as well as he did at least the first couple days, but maybe also, not surprisingly, not all that great the second 2 days of the tournament. But to make the cut, all that stuff was amazing. Kind of shows how golf is a fun, not the world of baseball, but a fun sport. But this guy is just like, I'm just stealing golf carts, and that's just going to be my life. I do wonder. This is one of my biggest curiosities, and I think there's some explanation of how some of these were carried out in the world of, like, just pulling them into a van and then taking off. But I hope he just drove some of them away. Not because I want to encourage stealing. I think that's uniquely interesting to have a guy roll up to a golf place, to roll up to an establishment, a course, I think is the word I'm looking for. Be like, I'm going to need a golf cart, and then just slowly drive away as many times as he did, 63 times. These were slow chases. The cops probably could have got him much quicker, but it took a while. You had to figure out who Mason Weber is. I don't know why I like that more. I'm not saying I support the crime. I'm just saying the idea of it being a slow, methodical process at least entertains me more. And that's really the point in all of this, right? Like, as long as I can be someone to laugh a little more about it, I guess somehow it has more value. One other just quick thing. I know we're about to take a break here, but just quickly, time and temperature hotlines exist in society still, so you should probably try one out and call one. I'm just thrilled to say that that's a thing. Quick break, a lot more. Craig Collins filling in on The Chad Benson Show.
Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
This is the Chad Benson Show. My name is Craig Collins filling in. Let's do a quick around the horn of some of the stuff going on out there in the world. Just one of them serious. The rest are going to be progressively, sillier. Just because it's a holiday weekend. Happy Easter weekend to everybody out there. I'm Catholic. Good Friday, uniquely odd as a day in my faith. But anyway, I move on. The first thing, the serious topic, but a very cool topic in my opinion. The flagship of Russia's Black Sea Fleet, this warship, actually the very warship that threatened Ukrainian military individuals who it then actually took the lives of the Ukrainian military people. Those soldiers said back to the communication from this ship that phrase that became so very, very popular, Ukrainian warship, go bleep yourself. It even became a stamp in Ukraine. It seemed to be one of those first moments of, outside of the things that Vladimir Zelensky has said as president of the country, and certainly over the last month or two, a fairly inspirational person in the way in which the rhetoric has matched a lot of the beliefs here in the United States, a lot of the things we hold dear as U.S. citizens, the freedoms we would have. But that message that was given to that advanced ship when it was within striking distance of those fighters was something that was sort of amazing. And the fact that now it's been sunk is even better, I would say. Ukraine, of course, taking responsibility for this, saying that it was a sneak attack that was successful. Russia saying that there was just a fire of some kind aboard the Moskva. If I'm saying that correctly, I'm not sure. I don't even really care as it's a Russian ship. But that ship downed. And it would be a unique emotional victory for Ukraine to take out that very warship, one that has been a significant part of the Russian fleet for years and has engaged in previous conflict. In other news, and I don't know why I just said the word previous conflict to transition to this much lighter, much sillier story, but I did see it like everywhere that you could see it. Harry and Meghan finally visited the Queen, Prince Charles amid family feud. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, they had a chance. They got over to see the Queen. All the photos I see look like a bunch of very grumpy people, which is kind of amusing. But they had a moment. They all got together. I do wonder what that was like. I don't care much about the British family, and I imagine very few people do. The royal family, I guess I should say. I don't care a lot. But when you have a high-profile feud that eventually involves a pop-up on Oprah, or whatever version of the show she's doing now, I guess I'm at least a little intrigued in how that all went, whether or not everyone's going to report positively from it. If the Queen at some point, Will Smith slapped Meghan Markle across the face, which I doubt happened. I don't even know if that's an appropriate joke to make. I just envision the wide range of things that could have happened. And for some reason, the Queen slaps. Maybe she slaps Harry. I don't know who she slaps. But if she takes a page out of Will Smith's book, she's going to let that hand fly. But just every part of it is interesting to me because at 95 years old, the Queen is probably someone that I guess, if I'm being a little bit of a human for a second, Harry would like to visit as much as possible, but they've certainly been in a bit of a situation for an entanglement, I think, to steal one other thing from the Will Smith situation. All right, let me move on again. I saw this. I actually saw two takes out there. Both of these confused me. I'd like any amount of information on these, and I don't know how you get it to me. Facebook.com/The Craig Collins Show or The Chad Benson Show would be ways I would see stuff if you wanted to send me stuff. But I do like the interaction. But just send it to Chad. Maybe he'll weigh in on it on the Monday show when he is back from his vacation. But there's a story about how a 3-year degree in college would be better than a 4-year degree if programs started to truncate their education process because it would be cheaper. You'd only pay for 3 years of education. I don't know why people don't assume that costs would go up somehow and that eventually we'd be back in the same world. And I guess more importantly to me, as a guy that did the 4-year version, the OG version of college, if you could have cut a year out, I don't know why we didn't do it sooner. Was the stuff I learned important? I guess if I'm asking myself, maybe not. But if you're asking yourself, you would hope that most of that education had some purpose whatsoever. But if we're just going to drop a year, that's fine. And then there's this other story about a 4-day work week. And maybe a hybrid version of that makes more sense in the near future for most Americans. What I mean is a 4-day work week in the office and 1 day, Monday or Friday, that is always from home. I don't know why the assumption would be that you'd work less hard from home. And I know that all the time during the pandemic, everybody said, no. From home work is just the same. At home schooling, totally fine. But it is interesting that some of the pitches out there, some of the ways to fix our society, apparently, from many, are to lower the amount of years we're educated in college, because why not? And then to not show up for work 1 day a week, which is already a thing that's been talked about a lot, but get to punch in and out. So we're not truly doing a 4-day work week yet. We're doing a hybrid version where I'm air quotes, and I know you can't see them, I'm doing them in studio, working from home. And I'll be on the clock all day, and I promise I won't be not paying attention to anything. Then I saw this story. I don't know if these are all just little proofs that our society is weird today, but a private European art collector spent $1.2 million on an art piece recently that I am positive I could have created. I'm not trying to act like Hunter Biden here and pretend to be an art expert or an art professional or someone who sells art for a lot of money with no training whatsoever. But the reason that I know I could have created this piece is it was invisible. This is a real story. Someone bought what is I guess, in a way, a non-fungible token, an NFT, but it's invisible art. You can't see any part of it. And now someone owns that for $1.2 million after an auction in Paris. I talk all the time about like the celebrity on the world of the internet, the TikTok influencer or whatnot, who makes hundreds of thousands of dollars from their fame or whatever it is they decide to be an expert in. I'm not begrudging them. You go make your money however you want to make it. I'm just always amazed that those things exist in our society. But this is the newest low. This is a low that I never thought we'd get to, where someone made $1 million by saying something exists that nobody can see. Why can't I do that? Why? I know this became selfish. Why can't you do that? Why can't so many of us just be like, you know what? My next move during my 4-day work week and my 3 years of education instead of 4 is to now make invisible art, and I hope to be almost as successful as the very honest Hunter Biden, who definitely wasn't doing any of that for shady reasons. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to play another piece of audio in a second, but last point on this topic, I think Hunter Biden is a missed opportunity in the world of invisible art that feels like the right next step for a guy being investigated as significantly as he is for his business involvement with places like Chinese energy companies. Just, lean in, make the art invisible. No one wants it anyway. They're buying influence. We all know what you're selling. So just copy this one person. They apparently made over $1 million. Maybe it is Hunter. Maybe it's a proxy and someone did buy it and this is all a big, giant additional thing we'll find out about in the future. I can't confirm that. I wouldn't be shocked by it at this point. Here's the last thing I wanted to play because it is a holiday. I want to be a little less serious on a Friday. A substitute teacher popped up in a classroom and decided to rap the roll call at the beginning of the class. She apparently just, decided this might be a funny thing. The kids clap along and everybody has a great time and the video goes viral. I have to say, and I'm probably being overly serious about this audio I'm about to play, this was a risk. If these are younger kids in a classroom and you're just going to bust out some rap the first day you see any of them, the odds of them having a good substitute teacher experience went down tremendously, but somehow she pulled it off, and it actually went quite well for all involved. I guess what I'm really saying is I know that there's no room I'd walk into and to impress everyone in the first few minutes, try to rap anything, but here she is.
Is it Madeline? Which one is it? Madeline. All right, she said it then. Thank you very much. Moving in. Kiera. That's you. All right, make it do what it do. Moving in. I got the next one on the spot. Jada, where she at?
Oh, no, don't say Jada.
Hey, Hannah, no banana, so Hannah, but Hannah. All right, now I say, man, I got a camera in, he.
I mean, even the he at the end there, like, these are all bold choices I would make. If I saw Hannah on a roll call, I would also go with the banana rhyme. But again, I think the classroom of young people would probably be throwing things at me at some point and not responding as well as they did. Definitely a silly viral video. Definitely not something you needed today, but something I liked a lot because all the conversations we have about all this stuff all the time, it's nice to highlight a substitute teacher who made a classroom of young kids laugh and did it again in a way that I would have thought would not have worked as well as it did. A quick break, a lot more. Craig Collins filling in on the Chad Benson Show.
I can't take it anymore!
Well, get over it. It's time to forge a new path with your very own political cartographer, Chad.
This is the Chad Benson Show. My name is Craig Collins filling in. Thrilled to be with you. Lots of stuff to talk about very quickly here. The first one is the comments that Jen Psaki made about Peter Doocy and Fox News. I would play the comments for you, but she actually drops a what some consider a bad word, calling him a stupid son of a bee, something that, of course, the president also called Doocy. But the way she did it was interesting. She was on a podcast doing an interview, Pod Save America, and the host asked her if Doocy purposefully sounds that way, if he says certain questions in a way that they obviously feel is dumb. I actually tend to like the things that Doocy asks her and the way he asks them, but I guess that makes sense depending on your political opinions of a lot of these things. Anyway, she responded back that it's not Doocy's fault. The station he works at, Fox News, would make most people sound like and she said it, a stupid son of A. She finished that phrase. What's interesting about that from an ethical standpoint, as our current White House press secretary, if it makes sense to so publicly bash one of the news organizations that covers these press conferences with such a significant version of a criticism. This, of course, would make way more sense for someone who, say, hosts an MSNBC talk show. I know that you all know that it's probably something Jen Psaki will be doing soon. Whether or not she answers any questions on that is yet to be determined. I wonder if she just avoids questions from guests on her own talk show, no matter what they're talking about. I feel like Jen Psaki is the person you'd ask, like, what'd you have for dinner last night, or what'd you do over the weekend? And you're going to go on a 10-minute ride in which you get none of those answers. But anyway, it's interesting, and there might be ethical issues with bashing a entire station so significantly in the role she's still in, a role that maybe she forgets sometimes she's in, and instead pretends she's in that other role that she's negotiating while acting as the White House press secretary. And just honestly, the last thing I guess I'll say about that is she said it is all ethical because she excuses herself from any room that she doesn't think she should be in. As a reporter, any bit of information that she shouldn't be gaining, anything where she says, I'm going to have to not answer that question or check up on that, all those moments that happen every day for her would be inappropriate stuff for her to know. Anything that she doesn't speak out loud, that's why it would make way more sense to have anyone else do that job. Sorry, just trying to put it out there. All right, one other political one. This one is certainly more of a holiday political one. It's certainly not a serious topic in any sense, and I'm going to have to figure out exactly how to say some of these things because they're earmuff time. They're adult in nature. There is a Democratic candidate for office in Pennsylvania. Her name is Alexandria Hunt. She is running for office, and someone outed a part of her past. She used to be a stripper. I'm pretty sure I can say that part. Someone then asked her if she'd establish a specific type of account on a specific website because of that past. Apparently, her answer to the question over the last 24, 48 hours and the decision she made after that was to do it. She has a page now that's out there in the world that you can subscribe to. I think you know what website I'm talking about, where I don't know what kind of content is on it, but she said she's doing all this because she supports those who work in these kind of fields. I have to be honest, and this is just me. I'm not trying to make anyone else feel any sort of way, and I hope I offend no one in saying this. Politics becomes uniquely more interesting if a woman creates an account like this to try to promote, say, their run for Congress. To do a little bit of research, I maybe looked up, not the account, didn't join, a little bit of what was said to be on it, and some of it is just typical campaign things, campaign fundraising and whatnot. I don't know where you mark that in any of the sort of recording you need to do as far as the campaign is concerned. And as I said, I really don't know, truthfully, what content is on it. But the idea that in today's world and the amount of money that people make on all kinds of social media sites, not just the adult ones, but honestly, like any of them, the idea to raise campaign funds that way, when someone actually thought that they'd embarrass this politician, and they certainly did not. I'm not praising her necessarily. I'm not sure I want to see everyone go this road. Nancy Pelosi, you do not need an OnlyFans, and many, many other people do not need one, and that might have been unwoke. I might get in trouble for that. But for whatever reason, this person is out there, and her Twitter page says she's a fighter for Philadelphia. She is a fighter for a lot of different things. I can't remember the last time we've seen this. And I know all kinds of people have run for office throughout all of this country, people with all kinds of pasts, people that worked in fields similar to this one. But I can't think of the last time someone had something quite as active in that world, something you could go purchase, I guess, in this sense. And then maybe that sways your vote one way or the other. I don't know. I would very much like to know the turnout in Philadelphia for this upcoming election and how many people do vote for this congressional district candidate, and just what the makeup of all the people that are there is, just out of curiosity. And as I said, even though this topic is not one that probably needed this much time on this show, it does make politics uniquely interesting in a different way to see campaign fundraising go a lot of different roads. All right, the last thing, I just want to say this. I know the holiday is coming up. Happy Easter weekend to everybody out there. I guess it's just a moment of a little bit of a soapbox thing. The Elon Musk trying to take over Twitter thing has been sillily or stupidly, or whatever the right word for it be, I may be naive in this, surprising to me that so many people are so upset about it, no matter what I thought the public might have thought of Elon Musk, because he just wants something that is free and that is values one of the core benefits of our society, that everyone gets the right to free speech. It's odd that it's creating so much drama and so much anger out there, and I think we all have to take a second and acknowledge that, even if you're someone that doesn't want to see Elon take over Twitter. But really, truthfully, as far as the holiday itself goes, do everything you can to enjoy it, no matter, I guess, what religion you are and what you celebrate. It is a uniquely fun holiday for me. With just my wife, though, and no kids, I'm tempted every year to hide some stuff in my house. And every year my wife tells me if she does, she'll divorce me. But come on, just like randomly finding some stuff. Maybe it's important. Maybe it's candy. I don't know. I feel like it would get us back into the spirit a little bit. But we'll see. Wish me luck this weekend. Craig Collins filling in on The Chad Benson Show.
This is The Chad Benson Show.